It just, so I don't make my decisions a lot. Something like this, because this is my business, this is my family relies.
Hmm.
I'm the sole breadwinner, so I don't make those decisions lightly. So this is a decision that's been in the works for a while, and it's more of a realization. Okay, look, I've got 10 different reasons now why I need to do this, and the only reason that I'm choosing not to at this point is because it's different, and that's just not acceptable.
Hey everyone, welcome to the program. I'm excited today to be talking to my guest, Schiavo. See, I almost messed up his name. Chris Schiavo. And this is going to be amazing. He's going to be talking about his journey since he's become a part of the AA program inside of Arturo Johnson Consulting. In order to sell more life insurance, you need an automated, predictable system that works. Hey, Chris, how you doing, my man? Glad to have you
I'm
here.
doing great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm excited about digging into some of the successes and some of the challenges that you've had that you've been since you've been in the AA program for Arturo Johnson Consulting. Man, tell me, when did you even get started in this whole thing with life insurance? How did that begin for you?
Insurance in general in 2002,
Hmm.
and final expense life insurance in 2000 at the end of 2017. It's almost 5 years ago.
Wow. So you're what we call an old head in this thing.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
you've been doing this for a minute. So I mean, with all of that experience, tell me some of the challenges that you were having even before you came, obviously, to AJC and our Agent Accelerator program. What was life like before that? That even brought you to or had you start looking at what it is that we do?
Absolutely. So, I'm definitely an old dog in the business. I started at 32, cold calling, knocking on doors. I
Wow.
did that off and on while managing and recruiting agents for the better part of 20 years, or let's say about 16 years. And I started working with leads, data leads, some Facebook and direct mail leads, and that was good. I did that for over 2 years. I did, I'd say, above average, better than I did knocking on doors. So that was great. But I was getting to a point after 2 years of I feel just driving around a lot, and the Texas summer.
Oh, man,
Texas
yeah.
summer finally started getting
Look,
to me.
I can get into that a little bit. I mean, I'm an Air Force vet, so all of us go to basic training down in San Antonio at Lackland Air Force Base. And I got there at it was after midnight when my plane landed and we got there and I stepped outside of the airport and this was June. I'll never forget it. This was like June 9th or May 9th. I can't remember quite. But it was humid, just humid hot. It
Yep.
was crazy. I was like, okay, this is a place that I definitely don't want to stay. And even in basic training, they would have like, I think red code or red. We couldn't even go outside because it was too hot to train, you know.
Right. Yeah. And
But
so, I mean, even, I spent a lot of time with customer service, agent support, agents that I work with. And so just even sitting in the car with the air conditioning on, it's still hot with good AC.
oh
So,
my gosh, we're going back to what, 2008, somewhere around in there.
yeah, so it finally just got enough. I knew that there had to be a better way, a more effective way
Hmm.
of doing things. And, I knew several agents that had been working with you guys up to 6 months and some a little bit newer that were
Hmm.
having good success. And I decided to take a plunge. And it was a plunge for me because I am all about just doing things the same way I've always been doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us are like, we'll get comfortable in a mode and say, okay, this is kind of how it's going to go. But then there also comes that time. It's like you've been doing something for so long,
Hmm.
but you're not growing.
Right. I was definitely stuck about 20, average about 22,000 a month
Hmm.
uh, for a year and a half. And it even started to go down a little bit.
Wow, that's a challenge in itself. When did you start having that kind of epiphany? I got to do something different here because you've been in since like 2006, 2008. This was obviously
Right.
pre-pandemic, with COVID and everything, but COVID changed a lot for a lot of
Yeah,
people.
absolutely.
There are a lot of agents that could not go through COVID because they were so used to getting in that hot car and going around, and then they couldn't. So about what time was it, around maybe 2008, 2010, that you started thinking about doing things differently, or was it even later
Okay.
on?
way later.
Way later.
Way later. So yeah, the pandemic. I did final expense for 2 years on
Okay.
my own, and that was good. I was able to had built up enough resources, clientele, prospects that I was able to, issue and submit about 10,000 a month, 8 to 10,000 life insurance with
Hmm.
no lead cost. So that was okay. It was okay to
How
take
did you
care
do
of.
that with no lead cost? What was going on at that time?
Well, prior to that, it was 4 years of door knocking in a small Texas county, and I
Wow.
had built up lots of relationships. I moved, so after my family and I moved, it was 4 hours one way, and I was traveling twice a week. I'd work, 4 days, spend 2 nights away, and I did that for 9 months. And it was a blessing. My wife was going through cancer, and I was able to
Oh my
make enough
gosh.
money. She's doing fine, but I was able
Great.
to do well enough, help enough people, and be by her side through just about every chemo treatment and radiation.
Hmm.
But that's what life insurance, it affords us the ability to be flexible. Not once did I ever have to ask if I could take off.
Exactly. Because you had
All
that
right.
freedom. You're an independent agent. Basically you work when you want with that. But also you gotten to a point where you knew how to work it smarter,
Yeah.
so
Right.
that you could do that.
But I
When did,
still could only get to a certain level, right? Ten
yeah.
thousand was it. I did that for 24 months, and about 12 or 13,000 was my best month.
Yeah. I think, the leader of your organization, I heard him one time say, if you're doing 20K a month, you're broke.
Right.
And I remember, 'cause I used to be with that same agency, but it's like that is so true, especially when you're trying to do better than you've ever done before. You start realizing and seeing how that money works and what you have to do with that money. Tell me about some of the big question here is how much were you spending? Let's just say per week, per month on leads in general to keep that level at about 20K or more. What was your
It
what was
was
your ad cost like?
I'd say 5,000, almost just like clockwork. Every week, 1,200 to 1,500.
Okay, and so that's 5,000 a month, not 5,000 a
Yes.
week. You're talking about. Okay, I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I was
I,
clear. Wow. And you did that for how long?
it's the better part of 24 months.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. And so then you had this. I'm wondering if you had two epiphanies. I'm wondering if you had the epiphany of, okay, there's got to be something different, which you've already said that's how you felt. But did you also have the epiphany of, I don't need to get in my car and go anywhere? Why am I still doing this? Or what was that change like for you?
Well, change is hard for me in some regards because in this industry, every week I'm
Hmm.
getting uh, people reaching out about the latest and greatest leads and this and that system,
Yeah.
and I just not paying attention to it because it's not worth it.
Yeah.
But with Arturo Johnson, it was different because Kevin Alexander,
Hmm.
I've known. Jerry Rufino, Todd Hausberger,
Hmm.
and so and Derek, I don't know him to a degree, but I know who he is.
Yeah.
So seeing their involvement, their success, it made it really easy for me to make the change
How
to
was
decide.
it? How was it for you when you talk about that change? Because we don't teach or instruct or coach people on how to go door to door or go in home. What we focus on is virtual. Was
Right.
that a big switch for you? And what was that transition like for you? Because I know it had to be a bit scary because it's not normally taught that way.
You ever try to give a cat a bath?
Oh my gosh. Actually, yeah.
I'm that cat. I mean, you could just put me out on the street and I'll go knock on doors. I'm very comfortable with that. But,
Yeah.
put me in and where we live, Earl, is in the country. So sometimes I pull down our street and I lose phone service and our
Wow.
internet is horrible. And so I got a cube here in town that I'm renting out, and just very different from being riding around to now I'm in a cube and doing everything over the phone.
Hmm.
But there's already been some good success. For me, I have zero experience. I'll get my clients, my current
Hmm.
clients, I'll get them covered over the phone through telesales. But this is my first real experience at doing anything like this over the phone.
Yeah.
And so it's been uncomfortable, but lots of support. I mean, lots of support from from you guys,
Hmm.
the weekly Zoom calls, the other people, the other agents that are a part, have been very helpful and instrumental.
Wow. When did you first hear about what it is that we do, and when did you actually come aboard with us?
Let's see. I don't remember the first. I think Eric Amati has talked to me. I mean, literally 2 weeks before I said yes. I had said I was a hard no. Eric
Hmm.
had mentioned, he brought it up. He was like, "Yeah, you should check out Arturo Johnson. They're doing this, that, and the other." I was like, "Yeah, I've got no internet, no phone service at home. I let go of my office. I'm a no." And then 2 weeks
Uh,
later,
uh,
I'm like, "Yep, here you go, Arturo. Sign me up."
how long? When did you actually come aboard in our
But
program?
so I came on board, started getting my first leads on June 17th. And to answer your other question, I probably heard about you guys maybe 3 months ago.
Okay.
So
Wow.
I
So
mean, it was,
you've
yeah, 3 months.
okay. So you heard about us about 3 months ago. So you've been aboard with us, not even a month yet,
No, not even a month.
right? So tell me, in this 20 days or whatever you want to call it, what have you been able to accomplish? What has been your experience from an AP standpoint? What you're doing in sales, like what you've done over the past week or however long you've been here? Talk about that
Sure.
for me.
And it's really early. It's been probably just a couple weeks. We had a couple trips planned already.
Hmm.
But what I've seen so far is really everything that Arturo told me about in our informational call.
Hmm.
Um, Everything he said has been to a point, and everything I heard prior, 300 to 500 leads. I'm tracking. I think for like 420 to 450. Um,
Leads that have come in.
well, yeah, I'm tracking for that. I'm at
Yeah.
like 300 already. And I mean, I've got more than enough leads. I'm just the one that's trying to catch up
Hmm.
to technology and to doing it over the phone. But even with that, I've been able to submit, I'd say about 10,000 over my first 2 weeks
Hmm.
of work.
How does
So,
I mean, how does that feel in comparison to what you were doing before, making 10,000 in 2 weeks or so with that?
if it feels, I can see that there's so much more opportunity for me because I'm on a scale of 1 to 10 of doing things over the phone and using the technology, CRMs. I'm at a 1 or 2. And if I can do that at a 1 or 2, what's going to happen when I get to 6, 7, 8? Leads are not an issue. There's tons of leads. It's just a matter of me getting better. And even though I'm not good, I'm still good enough to do what I was doing before.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it was probably pretty a scary transition. I want to talk about that a little bit because I know the newer clients that come in, most everyone is just used to getting in the car and go knocking on the doors, whether it's door knocking or whether it's going to appointments or whatever. How do you feel about this transition now that you're actually doing it? And just in relation to what you said about your wife, and I'm so glad she got through
Hmm.
her spell with cancer. And now you can do this from home or sitting in your office or whatever, but actually you can do this from anywhere.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
how does that transition feel for you?
It feels wonderful. I mean, we're looking at RVs
Ah,
right now.
oh my gosh.
Right, because our kids are 7 and about to be 8 and 13. We're homeschooling them,
Mhm.
so we want to be able to travel. And it's in my blood. I got to work. I mean, if I take any more than 3 or 4 days off, I don't feel well.
Yeah.
So, so I like to work. But the one of the interesting things is I had lunch with a gentleman that has been coming on board. He's transitioning out of his full time job. He is an Air Force veteran of 6 years. I just found out
Wow.
today.
Okay.
Really, really strong young man, and it's so much better. I feel like telling him about this opportunity, to have leads, especially, working and, specializing with the veterans and helping them
Yeah.
in a lot of cases. But anyway, it's a good system. I like, as opposed to relying on data leads. While I was successful at that, it's also a lot of work.
Explain what you mean by data leads. I'm not sure I even understand what that is. What are data leads?
Well, and I don't know that I can give you a good answer, but it can be anywhere from low intent to high intent, and it's
Okay.
just a mix. They do work. I issued, almost $250,000 last year solely on those leads, but it does take a lot of phone work.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. One of the questions I like to ask, and I've kind of changed this up a little bit for someone watching this, sometimes I ask, what would you say to them about the program? But I think what I'm more interested in and what I think people would be more interested in, what was the thing that made you make the decision to come aboard with Arturo Johnson Consulting?
I don't make my decisions a lot. Something like this, because this is my business, this is my family
Hmm.
relies. I'm the sole breadwinner, so I don't make those decisions lightly. So this is a decision that's been in the works for a while, and it's more of a realization. Okay, look, I've got 10 different reasons now why I need to do this. And the only reason that I'm choosing not to at this point is because it's different. And that's just not acceptable. So
Wow.
I had enough proof to say, listen, I need to do this.
When you talk about proof, what does that mean?
That means what I am doing, like I'm spending the same or more effort getting less results.
Mm.
Okay, and the way I'm doing things, while it was wonderful when I first started using multiple lead sources, and the leads, other lead sources, right? These leads are generated for anybody and everyone, and it was not being as effective for me at that point.
Mm.
Everybody's different, but I decided I needed to have a change, and seeing Jerry's success and Kevin's success, and just letting it sink in. I knew that this was the right thing to do.
Wow. That's
So
amazing.
I don't know that there was one thing. It was just tipping point, right?
Yeah.
It just finally there was enough proof to say, okay, you can no longer say this isn't going to be the best thing for you.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I mean, Chris, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I definitely appreciate that. And I know people are going to love, the conversation that we had and your story about the whole thing. So I definitely want to thank you for your time that you spent with me here today. All right. I think his video locked up, but that's okay. Definitely want to thank Chris for being here with us today. And I want to thank you, the viewers of this video. There's going to be some links where you can get some more information below this video about how our program works, how it can help you, and how it could get you to the next level, the same that we're doing for Chris and so many others. You guys have a great day. We'll see you next time. In order to sell more life insurance, you need an automated, predictable system that works.